In a colorful purple. Sorry, this end was blue. I'll send electronic card.
Not so exciting.
Mine will be coming electronically because I used all of my ink printing the cards for.
Great job with those.
Ink comes today.
Isn't that crazy?
My feet
And
don't
then
touch the
kids
floor.
used to buy ink the other day, and I was like, seriously?
That's all right.
Like,
I've refused to buy ink from Staples.
Every time I move it.
yeah.
It's twice as expensive as getting
Natalie
it.
Get it on
shoes were
Amazon
real
and
nice,
get it
right?
off brand. And
She got her shoes and every time she
it
stepped,
pretends to be
squeaky. She was like, Mom,
whatever it's supposed to be.
That's all right. I wasn't sure if these be printed, that's why I was a little bit behind. I was printing out my. That's okay. Well, you emailed yours over too, so that's all right. Well, no, the agenda and stuff, I can never. Never sure.
Housekeeping item, the restroom here is going to be turned off in a couple minutes for some plumbing issues.
Good morning. This is the May 29th, 2024 Main Street Advisory Board meeting. We are going to do our call to order. Looks like not present. We have Beth Lee present. We have Sharon Tillman, myself, Brandy Bollinger, Lauren Weeprecht, Stephanie Stevenson. We have Keith Reed, Jamie Shee, and Jim Weeprecht. I guess we'll start by saying we have a lot of good that has come out of last month. I feel like we had a really good meeting the last time. We're just kind of continually getting better and everything's getting a little bit smoother and everybody's finding the place or figuring out where we need to find our place. So I'm looking forward to you guys being able to share all your committee reports, amongst us, but obviously it's live stream. So everybody, in the town can kind of see what's been going on. And most importantly, to see that things are going on and that they are happening and moving forward. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And then I'm also on the back end receiving some emails here and there from people that say, hey, here are some important topics to us. And some of those people are on the board, some of those people are in the community. So I look forward to sharing those too, because we've talked about this a little bit and there's no real procedure for it. But when somebody can't necessarily be here in person, I'm really excited that we have a venue to be able to get their information out on the public forum and say, hey, we heard you, regardless of whether or not you could be in here. And then we can work on some of those items too, if we feel that they fit with our Main Street agenda. So we have, moving forward, we're gonna review and see what we think about the Main Street Advisory minutes from last month. You should have them in front of you. They came over last night. And then is there any discussion on those minutes?
Will there be a record provided for the net change of 66029?
So what's the question?
Will there be a record provided for the net change of 66029?
I can certainly get that for you. The city manager, I met with Beth Lee last week, and I was hoping that she would be here to discuss a little bit with you about what we talked about in terms of expectations, but she's not. But yes, I can get that.
And I'll just put on here, because that generally will fall under Beth now with our treasury stuff, so we'll make sure that she gets it over.
Make a motion to approve with those addendums.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Okay, motion all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Approved minutes of the April 24th, 2024 Main Street Board.
With addendum to include.
Yep. I'm getting my STs and my SSs straight over here. Yes. I'm going to put with an addendum to update the report for the net change
Yes.
Yep.
in the treasurer report. All right, monthly discussion. So first up is vice chair role. Mish, this one was your agenda. Do you want to go over what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, it was expressed at the April meeting that we should have a vice chair, somebody able to operate the board meeting in the absence of you, the board chair, and that we wanted to discuss that in May. I suspect that the goal is just to have somebody who can run the meeting, since everybody already has their own brief, their own committee. So I sort of leave it to you. I mean, if you have some sort of different conception of what the vice chair could or should be doing, by all means, share it. But otherwise, I would imagine, just a discussion about who will chair the meeting in the absence of Brandy, and amongst yourself to pick someone. I would typically suggest maybe the organization person, but she's not here, and I don't know that we necessarily want to saddle her with that in her absence.
That'd be rude.
Well, and there was some discussion too also about rotating, which is perfectly fine too, with me anyway.
Yeah, I think the only goal is that we can keep
Right,
moving
keep
forward.
moving
We don't have to,
forward,
we don't
right.
have to cancel a meeting. No,
Right, and that was the intent. Hey, you almost got nominated for things that you probably don't even want. It was close.
no preference which avenue we take. I think the
Yeah.
only goal is that we can
Continue, yep.
continue to have a meeting
Exactly.
even in your
That
absence.
we make a decision.
And I feel like we kind of have two options on this one, which we can do. I like the idea of it rotating very, very much so, because then it's not one permanent thing, and it's not a burden on any one person to make every meeting, because that's just something that typically wouldn't happen. And then B, it allows everybody to almost sit in that seat, because we're not all going to be in these exact same seats that we're all in right now, which means everybody rotates around a little bit and gets a feel for everything, which I think is really important. But I feel like we can either do the rotate method, or we can have our Main Street manager fill the role if we're not here. That was kind of where we led last time.
that's
I was
true.
hoping they between Jim and Jay, that they could do it, but we had so much going on as a board that they felt that would have been difficult. And I don't disagree for that one, but what would you guys?
I
how
would
do you
rather it
guys
be
feel?
somebody on the board than a city employee, because I think that speaks to the integrity of this body
Okay.
and the work that we're doing as a grassroots effort.
Yeah.
And continues that message and keeps us on point.
I agree. It's also a nice succession planning strategy.
Yep.
So we could do rotating boards. So the idea is rotating board members.
Right.
Rotating board members, pre-scheduled. Pre-scheduled.
How would you like that to be designed? Would you like Brandy to go through and say, here's the person for June if I can't do it, here's the person for July, here's the person for August?
I would almost like to do a sign up. Let's do a sheet and let everybody just sign up for it through the end of the year. And then we could actually do through, if we're doing it the way
through
that
the
I
fiscal
envision it,
year.
we should do it the fiscal year, right? But yeah, just let everybody sign up, and as long as you're not signing up more than one, how many of us are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as long as you're not signing up more than once every fifth fifth space unless somebody can't, if we get through an entire meeting and nobody has signed up, then we can fill in where everybody else feels it. But does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, all right. So do we need to vote on that? Or is it more housekeeping?
I think that's more housekeeping since we don't have
It doesn't
rules
cost
yet
anything.
adopted.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
mean,
cost anything and it's internal.
Essentially, what we'll end up doing is when we adopt rules, we'll
can add
write
it
that
in.
into it. Yeah.
See, guys, we just came up with our first, that's our first official rule add-in. We're good. So we'll do rotating board members, pre-scheduled. We'll do it as a sign-up. One person for 5 months. 5 months, unless there's a vacancy.
Right. And just kind of define what that person would do in the event of the chair's absence, so it's clear.
And then, so we can do roles of, so we'll get out in these minutes roles of the vice chair in the chair absence. All right. And then let's move forward to expansion of the Main Street District to include the Mason-Dixon, Napa Auto Parts, and the A&W Country Meats.
So we operate still on the boundaries that were decided in 2002 when Main Street, or when Taneytown applied to the Department of Housing and Community Development for Main Street District. And that results in some awkward cutoffs. The boundary, if you can picture where Napa Auto Parts is at, I think 117 or 119 East Baltimore Street, their parking lot is in it up to the back of the building where Laughing Coffin is. So essentially that little alleyway that runs behind the first block of East Baltimore Street is the cutoff. So Napa Auto Parts is left out. And then it continues going up that alley up behind the fire station. So A&W Country Meats is out. When I first got here in 2021, folks from the Taneytown Chamber of Commerce said, hey, we should really include these. And I was not in a position at the time in terms of capacity to go to the state and say, hi, we'd like to amend our boundaries. After I made, or rather included this in the agenda, it was also pointed out to me that we could theoretically ask to include the post office.
Yes.
So the Buddy's place is included because it's on the right side of that alley, but the post office is not. And the post office, you may know, there is an effort underway to get us a new post office. And having that building in the main street, I think, if it goes to become redeveloped or something, would be a benefit. So if you support it, the next step is we will go to the city council and ask them for authorization to ask the Department of Housing and Community Development. But I didn't want to do that without getting your buy-in and have you think that it's an awful idea. And then there I am telling the council something that you don't support. I guess, is there discussion? Do you have questions about it and so on and so forth?
I do have a question. So I am all for the benefit of expanding that across the alley and behind those businesses. But I do know that the way the Main Street map is drawn is that it goes up north on 194 on York Street and includes some like residential homes. Why not just square off? Because then we can ensure that the Methodist Church building is also included potentially, and I'm not sure if the American Orthodox Church, formerly the Presbyterian Church, is included in the boundary, but can we somehow square off the map so that it's not running between houses, and then we can include maybe some more people, plus more opportunities in the future should something happen to another property or somebody want to include a business in a property, and just make the map a little bit less jagged and try to you know, if we're asking for a boundary change, can we do it so that it's,
Make it nice and
make
clean.
it clean and makes sense? If not, then could we ask for it to go up to the next alley where that Methodist church is and include at least that as our upper limit?
I don't have any objection to that. Particularly if it's something that you like, I would ask or say that if we're including residences, I'm going to ask the residential owners or the residents, because now there's no downside, but it could conceivably, you know what I mean, if something happens and the city council, this is just in the realm of hypothetical, right? But the city council said we want to impose some sort of historic building restriction on the Main Street district. I don't want somebody to find out suddenly that they're in the Main Street district without knowing ahead of time that we just expanded it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's valid.
Yeah,
It's a valid
so
consideration.
I
It's-
would let
What
them
if we
know.
propose this in an official letter from the city to each of these businesses that we're looking at adding into it, regardless of who they are? Well, I wanted it to be more city because we're talking state highways involved too, or it can be from the Main Street with the city, you know,
I
with the
just-
city's seal. I
I-
want both of those people involved in that letter, so there's never a,
It has to be
Right, I
approved by
never
the
heard you
council,
do
and
that.
I'm just at this point trying to anticipate what the council,
Okay.
what their concerns would be.
yeah.
It's sort of like an idea of let's ask for more, and if we can't get more, then this is what we really want to see happen. But
Right.
if we can, I mean, I don't see having more houses being fixed up and being taken care of doesn't seem to be a big issue in my
Well, and that
mind for
begs,
this area,
that
so.
begs to Trinity's not in it. Trinity's not on our Main Street,
St. Joe's.
and Grace isn't either, and Grace is right there, just past our Main Street. Now, we're past
they
meters
past?
at that point.
Oh, I thought
Yeah,
they
we're
were,
past
okay.
metered parking and we're past business. We're past business, but it stops right after, because your house is still in. Yeah, Lauren's house, I think, is the gun store, and Lauren's house are the last two right there on that side that are in the Main Street boundaries. But that begged the question about Trinity, because it's one up from where we're looking.
No, I don't think that that's correct. I think that that is what I would call a misunderstanding. The Main Street district itself goes down just before Playground Road on the odd side of West Baltimore Street.
So that is confusing looking at the map, because looking at the map,
Which,
the Main Street map, Church Street is only in the highlighted orange portion on the right-hand side coming off West Baltimore, and Trinity's address would be on the left. So I can see why that would be confusing.
And I've talked to Pastor Chris, and he's told me that he's not in the Main Street district either. Like, he knows, he's expressed that he's not in it, which, if he thinks he's not in it, and our map is, you know, assuming that, if we need to clarify that, and we need to, maybe if we clarify it and just let's double check those things when we're talking about these other things and make sure, because if he's in it, I want to make sure we tell him. If he's not, then.
Yeah, because even looking at the map, so there's the orange portion of the map that is DHCD's Sustainable Communities, and then there's the hashed red portion of the map that is designated as Main Street areas. So that's even a subset of what we're looking at here.
Okay.
Well, and how is that? That's actually a solution we hadn't thought of either, is we can have our Main Street, and then maybe we have our, would you just call the second one, Stephanie, like Main Street? Yeah,
It's referred to as the DHCD Sustainable Communities area.
yeah, so maybe we have a Main Street area. We have our official Main Street, and then we have our Main Street area, which is the subset of Main Street, so it could still be fitting into some of those grants and programs and Main Street funding and activities, but we wouldn't necessarily need to change, maybe we could change our map to show the area and make all of our lines really, really clean without asking for actual changes to Main Street.
I'm cautious about that because people then will get the idea, for instance, that they're eligible for grants or something that they're not. So the Sustainable Communities area is essentially where we want to target growth. The Sustainable Communities Area is a state tool to prevent sprawl and to incentivize development and redevelopment in targeted areas. The Main Street District's purpose, again, is to support economically and build the walkable historic core of the town. If I had it all to do over again, I just discovered that I can turn off the orange layer. So I can provide you with a map that shows just the Main Street without the sustainable community, which it turns out would be helpful. The Lutheran Church and the Grace UCC are both in. I will make sure that those folks know.
In Main Street?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So is the American Orthodox Church, looking at the map.
You say it is?
It is, because
good.
this map shows it goes all the way up to Roberts Mill, so,
Yep, once it gets to Riffles Lane, it cuts up.
yes.
So just excluding A&W Country meets there.
Right, and then the
Right.
Methodist Church is just like the next alley up from that.
On Middle Street, you mean, right?
Yeah, on coming out on Middle Street, yeah.
So back to the original agenda item, I would support a change in the Main Street District to include Mason, Dixon, Napa, and A&W Country Meats.
Would you also support getting in the post office?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anybody have objections at a minimum to those things? And I will work and see about squaring it off and getting the residences in as well.
No objection from me.
You good? Lauren?
Yeah.
Stephanie? Okay, yep. I say, so well, not our motion, but our movement at that point would be then this gets sent to council?
Yes.
Our request gets sent to council?
Well, I'm going to prepare a proposal for council, and I'll say that the Main Street Advisory Board is in support of this.
Got it. Do we support
Thank you.
proposal? And can you collaborate with Keith on updating the Main Street businesses who are in the area? Because he's economic vitality, and it might be a really good move, especially if they think they've not been in our Main Street district, to see you, because it'll be the first time that I would tell you, I think that they know that they're in it. So your face would be a good one to say, hey, we're glad you're in it. Here's, we'd like to help you. We'd like you to be involved.
Sounds good.
Okay. Our fiscal year 2025 budget.
What do we want to do with our money? Through conversations, I have discovered that I may have given you a misunderstanding of the money that comes from the state. They don't simply give us $25,000 and say, do whatever you want, let us know what you've done with it. They say, tell us what you're going to do with it that is in line with the program goals. Having said that, what do we want to do with it that's in line with the program goals? I have budget ideas, we'll call them, from all of you. Do you want me to compile them and send them out to all of you? Okay, that is what I will do.
Yep.
If I don't have them from you, or if they are insufficiently detailed, I will contact you one-on-one and say, hey. It is fine to say, I want this much for events. You don't have to say, I want this much for a band. I want this much for, a juggler. Or, for instance, for Clean, Green, and Safe. You don't have to say this much for gloves, this much for trash bags. But then on the back side, we'll keep all of the receipts and the invoices and then turn around and say to the state, we used it for cleaning up. Here are the receipts for bags. We used it for events. Here's a receipt for the juggler, and so on and so forth.
And that'll be a little bit, I know, Stephanie, with your last Clean and Green one, there was a little bit of, you had different ideas once you get started, and you've got this much money to do it, and then you realize that it can just be spent a little bit differently and a better way to accomplish what you're trying to do. it'll give you guys some of that autonomy where you could just be like, hey, here's what we did and it was really successful, or it wasn't, either way. But hopefully it means that it was successful and you figured it out and you put it where you thought it was best used.
Right, and I guess my follow-up question to that is that knowing the proposals that have come forward from each committee, it far exceeds $25,000. So will all recommendations be being put forward, or are you going to cap it at $25,000?
Nope, I'm gonna put it all together, and you can prioritize what you think is most important. Also, the reason that I didn't say to you in the beginning, keep it to this amount, is because there are other places to get money. Like Paul Kluth told us, there are $50,000 from T-Mobile, which is a really competitive nationwide thing, and it's project-based as opposed to general operating expenses. But there are other places. There are, businesses that would give. There are individuals, I think, who would give, depending on what specific needs are. Again, there could be other grants for them. So I don't want you to feel limited to that. I want, to see what all of the things are. And if some of the things are a multi-year project, we can break them down into multiple years and say, okay, we're gonna do 5,000 this year on it, 5,000 next year on it, 5,000 the next, and so on and so forth. So I don't want you to think small, I guess, is what I didn't want in
Don't want
terms
it
of
stifled.
limiting.
Yeah, we don't want to stifle it before we start. So we can look at either, and this is getting a tiny little bit ahead of ourselves, and we will talk about it more, but I would say this is either going to be at our June meeting or our workshop meeting. So which we might as well say, is anybody opposed to a separate, outside of our board meeting, a workshop meeting? More like the council does, where they have an actual working session where we can sit down and really just talk through stuff and not have to worry about our main agenda. We can really just hash out a couple things we think are important, and
I think it's
Yeah,
necessary.
my only request is that it be after 5 PM. So that it's not in the middle of a workday.
nope, I'm not opposed
What are
to
your
that.
thoughts in terms of frequency, Brandy?
I don't know yet. We'll have to figure that out, and I would almost tell you that I feel like we should get into the first one,
Yeah.
and then we can decide that. We
makes
can look
sense.
at it, because what I want to avoid is too much. I feel like we're always every one of us up here is so driven that we're like, we got to figure it all out today, or we feel like we haven't done everything that we could. And I want to make sure that we're breaking it down into manageable pieces of things, and that we're saying, hey, this is an amazing idea, let's shelve it until June. This is an amazing idea, let's shelve that one until July. That way everything's got the appropriate amount of attention that we think that it should have, and we're all pretty comfortable with it. But same thing, make sure we prioritize it so that nobody feels like something gets missed because of when we talk about it.
I would also like to request, along with the fiscal year '25 budget proposal, that there is a fiscal year '24 budget to actual statement provided, so that we can see where
So
money
there
was
was
spent.
never a fiscal '24 budget, but yes, I can give
I
you the
think
list of.
what our expenditures are.
So
at this
we can say there was no budget, but we can show the money and kind of the areas that it went to.
We need to see where it was spent and how it was spent and what was,
And then Beth, is that something that you and Mish are working on?
Yep, it's
Okay.
actually,
thank you.
it's done.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great.
Except, and then for 24, 25, we will add the budget column.
Okay.
And then that one, is that something that we can put with the minutes to this meeting, or is that something where you think more in June? Do you want to bring it in June?
Did you bring copies?
So the spreadsheet that you have made
Cover
me,
page. The
what's that?
cover page.
Yes, that only updates through
Right. well,
March.
Why would you update to April?
It did not.
That's because you didn't go change the formulas we talked about.
Apparently, I have not correctly changed the formulas we talked about.
We'll go over it again.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a cover page.
The only formula I know how to use is auto sum. Like, that's the one, that's.
I just learned that, and
I'm feeling
If it's out of auto sum, I'm
Yeah,
okay. Okay.
Formula.
That's so funny.
Okay, so we did that one. So let's say this, just because I feel like we don't need to stress everybody, and the idea is that it's something that we feel is important, so let's just make sure we have it for our June meeting.
Yeah, fine.
because that's before our fiscal year
Or we
starts.
can do it and we can get it out to everybody.
And same thing, maybe we do that, and it's either our June. I anticipate us having a workshop sooner than later if we're gonna do them. So I would tell you, we'll put that in the same category, either June or the workshop meeting. That way we can look at them and kind of get a feel for, what you guys think, because we'll be most likely looking at the budget at that one because we need to.
When are you thinking about holding the first workshop?
I don't know, that's a great question.
Because that could be the that could be the budget topic. That's a good workshop topic. Or it could be the,
Yeah, and it could be that, that could be our June, that could be our June, just let it be that.
if we have a workshop before the meeting.
And I'm wondering if we could even have something sooner, because looking at looking at this month's agenda and the Community Foundation closing balance, I know we're backdated to March, but Beth, you're saying we do actually have actuals up for April.
The number that's there is April 30th, end of,
So if we did this
Okay,
the second
gotcha.
week of
So-
June, could we have through May?
yes. After May 31, we can have to May 31.
Because there is, if this is if we have, let's say,
Is it
$8,000 left in FY '24's budget, there is so much work to be done.
To spend it.
Why are we, why are we not creating a plan?
What happens to
For
our money
spend
in
out.
the event we don't spend that money by the end of this year? Does it roll over? Okay, so that would become an excess to our
Okay.
fiscal year '25, just in case.
We do
That way
not,
we're not
we do not
losing it.
lose.
Okay.
Okay.
Once money is in our account, we don't lose it.
Stephanie was about to
We
plan the most
can-
epic of all fixes on Main Street.
We could spend that money if you really.
Grant rules in my world work a little differently, so.
Don't lose it.
I see.
Use
No,
it, use
no.
it. The goal is not to lose it. How's everybody's second week of June look? That starts on the 10th.
I need to tell you that Monday, June 10th is a city council meeting. And Wednesday, June 12th is a Parks and Rec meeting, both in the evening.
And the 11th is our Arts and Entertainment Committee
Okay, so
meeting.
how do we look on the 13th and 14th?
Where?
Friday, which I suspect might get some pushback.
13th Thursday.
Question about location, does it have to be held in this room or can it be held somewhere? If it's a workshop, can it be held somewhere else, like at the library or
Yeah, it can be held
another
elsewhere.
location? So if,
As long as it's still public.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, that's.
yeah, as long as it's still public.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it can be held
Okay.
simultaneously with another meeting as, doesn't have to be here.
Oh, I see what you're saying, as far as dates are concerned.
As far as dates, but
If it-
also, I know there could be some overlap with people's attendance to things, but just to more of a look. Data
right.
point.
What do we think? How's everybody's, is any day that week out?
The 12th is out for me.
The 11th is out.
Okay, so the 11th out, 12th out, and we're not gonna do the 10th out, because I'll be at the council meeting for that one, representing us. So we have the 13th or 14th? Any preferences on Thursday or Friday?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday?
There's actually a small business event happening at the Antrim on Friday, the 14th.
Okay, so let's do Thursday. Looks like Thursday, the 13th is a good
And it's a work night for some of us.
workshop. Yes, it is. Look, it was your idea, Sharon.
Okay.
All right, workshop Thursday, the 13th,
Time,
after 5 PM.
after 5 PM.
We work up until 5, so that works for us too, because we're still in town. So do we want to, is 5:30 awful for anybody?
No, that's fine.
The later the better works best for me, but
Night owl.
I work until like 8 on Thursday, but I'll get done early. Don't worry about it.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
So let's do 5:30. And same thing, we're not pulling an all-nighter, because this is our, we'll break into it, we'll see how it goes, and then we'll, it won't be our last one, so we don't need to cram it all in.
Thursday, June 13th at 5:30 PM.
Correct.
Is everybody okay to do it here since there isn't anything else in the building at that point? Or would you like to do library or something else?
Can we do it at a table that's more conducive of collaboration, though? That's partly why I suggest another location, even if it's in the conference room downstairs, just, this is very formal and not
Actually, the
collaborative.
conference, I'm not opposed to the library either, but the conference room is really easy, because it's that round, I like that table.
Yeah, just so long as it's a,
Is conference
Someplace
room
we can
available
face
on
each
that
other.
day? Okay. And then do we want to go ahead and just say that our topics will be the fiscal year 2024 review? So we'll do the budget review, or not budget, but we'll call it that for lack of a better word at the moment. And then we'll do the fiscal year 25 budget review. And then what I'd like to see out of that meeting, because if we're over $25,000 in requests for what we want to spend money on, I think it's going to be really, really important for everybody to think ahead of time. We need to come up with a prioritized list. So how are we going to prioritize all the events that everybody has, and what kind of scale can we assign to those items? So that we can, it's gonna reach X number of people, it's gonna reach X number of businesses, it's gonna be, it's gonna cost X amount of money. All of these things should have some kind of a numerical number attached to them so that we can really easily say, if we're all here or none of us are here, somebody could figure out how to prioritize events for this budget and the next budget and the next budget.
I think having a really good understanding of what grants are available relevant to each of our areas is very important, because like I know that Keep America Beautiful has community grants that open in September. So, so I can be thinking about which of my projects, my committee's projects would be most appropriate to seek grant funding for versus trying to prioritize something for.
Well, and it would still, so that'll still hold a prioritizing numerical number to it. However, it'll fall in a lower category because it may fall for grant funding.
Exactly,
But in the event
exactly.
grant funding doesn't come in, it'll still have a number so that it's still falling in a hierarchy, so that it still gets attention, even if the grant funding doesn't come in,
Exactly,
just
yep.
in case.
Exactly.
Okay, so we can look at, so if you know of grants, go ahead and, kind of have those jotted down so that they're assigned to what things you're doing in your committees that may fall under that. And then we can look at, Sharon, you're gonna like this one. We're gonna have a strategic number scale to prioritize. And I think once we do those things, our work on the budget's gonna be way easier, because at that point, we're not guessing, and Sharon has asked for this too, we're building that box. We're kind of saying, hey, here's what we have. Just in case you ever thought I don't read your notes, I do.
Thank you very much.
So we have, we're building that box. That way we can start looking at what things we're trying to do, and then we can figure out where they fall inside of it, and then we can figure out what falls outside that box and what to do about those things.
I got chills.
I
Brandy.
think,
Doing it. We're doing it.
I think that I can promise to have the budgets compiled and submitted to you by June 6th. Does that give everybody enough time? That's a week to look over them.
Yep.
Okay.
Ba-dum.
Also, I think that this might be exciting. For the first time ever, I'm taking all of my notes in the agenda, which will make compiling the minutes already done.
This is only because I made him do it this time. He was like, this is not.
No, I mean like literally this very moment.
I like it. All right, so moving forward, you had on here a note for Stephanie's comments to the bylaws. Is that anything we need to go over now, or was that more just that
was-
she
we were
had
planning
comments?
on discussing them today, although I note that nobody has made other comments on her bylaws revision.
Bylaws, do we want to go over bylaws today, or do we want to, just because you had notes? That's the only reason it's on there. Yeah, I think that would be I think that's a
Make
really
that a
good
workshop as
workshop
well?
item too.
Sure.
Yeah, my understanding was that all of the notes that everyone had submitted were going to be compiled in this document.
Yes, they will be.
Oh, I thought that everybody was going to go into that document and make their notes.
No,
I see.
Well, that was an option, because you had the best template, I think, for how they could all be added into it, but no, it didn't get singled out for anything other than you had you're the holder of the master template, for what it's worth.
Just shared my notes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
With the group and said, here's mine.
So Misha's gonna, same thing, so you're gonna compile all of those things. What's our date for compilation of that?
Well, if we're
Are
gonna
we
have
okay
it
to
for,
call this a July workshop? Is that what you're thinking about when you say a workshop?
Is that okay with you
I
guys?
think that's way too far out. This is something that is, to me, is more.
for June.
So
like,
we would
take what we
have
at that
to,
point.
so June, we wanna try to look at budget and bylaws, and we'll see how far we get.
Is the bylaws something that can be done via email, where you can set up the document, share it with everybody, and we can
I think that's
comment
what-
between the meetings?
That was done, right? That's what we got, was Stephanie's.
Yeah, but it
Well,
doesn't
it
include
wasn't- it
anybody
didn't have
else's comments.
No, I know, but I'm saying it was a Google Doc, wasn't it? So it was something that we could make comments on.
Okay, I apologize, I missed that,
Yeah.
that direction
No,
to
it
do
wasn't there.
that.
I'm saying
Okay.
that we
Well,
already have that, so we
okay.
could, that would be a good suggestion.
So we can then go
Yep.
through and compile it and make comments
Yep.
electronically and keep this conversation going and not
Yes.
wait for a workshop
Yes, and
opportunity.
then maybe in our June meeting, if we've got all of that done by the time we have our June meeting, then maybe we can just talk about.
Right, that's-
Talk about some of those key points and move forward with
Because
it.
we've workshopped it electronically. Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Done.
So I'm just gonna put on here workshop electronically. And then, Mish, can you add in the other notes that everybody sent over into that document so that when we're all looking at it again for the first time, we will already be looking at everybody's comments in it, and then we can start thinking about the things we need to say or things we need to talk about
Add
with
into
it.
it, yeah.
Yeah. And then when do you want to send that over to everybody?
Well, it's live now,
Yeah,
so
I'm
anything that we
I'm
want
confused
to.
about
The
what.
document is live.
Right, we're not gonna have everybody go back in. Misha's gonna compile everybody's stuff, like your comments are already in there. Misha's gonna go in and add the comments that Lauren had or Keith
Right,
had or
that's what I thought.
Yeah, everybody,
We could each do, well.
you guys could each do your own again if you
Yeah,
wanted to. I was
let's-
just trying
You
to,
can each do your own. That would
Thinking
make
that's
it much
gonna
more
be-
manageable for me.
okay.
And it's gonna really give it our own
What do you
words.
guys want as your
Would-
date to have those in?
Well, let me just ask a real quick question. Could that link or access to that document be resent so that it's top of?
It's in the minutes from.
It was in
Minutes?
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
or not in the minutes, I'm sorry, it's in the email that Jay sent last
last
time.
evening.
And it's a live, it's a
in there.
live link.
Well, the short answer is
that
yes,
case-
we'll put them back in these minutes, because these minutes, Mish, if I'm not mistaken, we'll have today.
Okay.
Because they're already live in this system that he's doing now. So we'll have them today and we can put it back in there.
Okay, no, that's, as long as I know where to find it,
Just because it doesn't, right, it gets buried.
that's fine.
Add link to document in minutes.
Do you have a deadline for yourselves to submit all of your comments on Stephanie's Google Doc?
We want to meet the 13th.
Oh, I see. So you want to have everybody go through all of this and be ready to discuss it on the 13th?
Yes, so I would tell you, do we want to have everything in no later than the 10th? That gives everybody 4 days to get in there and look at it, and you'll be in there before that, but that
Right.
gives
Yeah, that-
everybody
that's
4
fine.
days to really get in there and kind of look over things and see what they think. Okay. So we'll have our comments by the 10th. Mish, can you add in there to those, can you go ahead and add in our vice president, or, sorry, vice chair, our vice chair roles?
Sure.
Because we already know they're gonna be in there, and then, I don't know, stick them in red or bold or something, because we've already discussed them, so we've got a good plan. We'll just maybe, you know, we might tweak it, but I think that we've already agreed to that.
Right.
All right, moving forward, committee reports. Design is still vacant, however, things are still happening.
Absolutely. We have ordered, oh, bless you, hanging basket flowers from Catoctin Growers, which is frankly at a much more affordable cost than we have got them in the past 2 years. And I anticipate them being hung by the end of the first week of June. So by June, what is that, 7th?
What is the plan for watering them?
Great question. At the moment, I'm going to be out there getting my steps in and watering them. Hopefully that is not the all-season long solution. Public Works is not generally equipped in terms of labor to water them, unfortunately. But we're gonna have pretty hanging flowers that are alive.
And I think too, maybe, is there a way for us to,
You would need a
it could
step
be an
ladder.
email, but
Oh.
a little card, I'm definitely gonna need the step ladder. Like a little card, or like, almost like a little Main Street postcard or something that we could give out to businesses that have the flowers out front of their shop to say, hey, you know, this is what we're trying to do, but, you know, if this is something you can do, like, I wouldn't mind watering ours, but I kill a lot of plants. So it would need to be like a little card that says, hey, you need to water it every 3 days. Don't forget.
So our committee has actually talked about this in kind of in the context of other types of planters, just, looking forward. And we are open to volunteer, a volunteer effort where everyone kind of like takes turns. However, we need equipment to be able to do so. So we would need something like a gator that has like a water tank that we can put on the back. We'd be happy to store it at the $9, but we need the equipment to be able to do that.
Something, some kind of water tank, sprayer, hose. Yeah. Yeah, like
to think big.
Right?
wagon and.
Yeah, so for this year,
I
yeah,
have
if we
looked
didn't
at
have.
every
if it's
kind of
not-
equipment there is for watering plants
Right.
and street sweeping sidewalks.
And would that also include watering any other planters that are put in by Clean, Green, and Safe or other groups?
So,
I don't see why not.
and here's a thought I had, was we're gonna have these hanging plants. Would that be a spot for us to maybe put a sticker with our QR code to take us to our Main Street page?
Ooh,
Just a thought.
It has been expressed, I don't know when or by whom, that there's a preference for plants that trail over the side. So it may be that there isn't necessarily a convenient place to put it, but I certainly don't know why not if it's possible.
I mean, it'll be visible for the first month.
Laminated, so it's.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, the kind of stickers you put on cars or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was thinking too, like even at the bottom of the basket, as long as it was a nice looking card.
Because
I'm
people are gonna
thinking that
look up,
And I'm
and I'm
thinking I
thinking-
can't, I'm not gonna even be able to reach
Oh,
it
but
with my
laminated
phone
hanging, that
unless
wouldn't
it's
be
like
bad, too.
down.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not saying everybody's that short, but you'd almost have, almost have to be under the basket.
Well, there's also,
everybody would get to
separate
it.
from the baskets, there's also the square planters that
Right.
are in the square. And we donated those flowers to kind of get those planters going this spring. But we could certainly put something there.
I'm just thinking wherever we are doing things, it might not be a bad idea to have a connection to, take people back to what's happening in our town so they can see what's next.
I'm glad you brought it up. So flowers in the square, I saw that they were there and I had no idea who did them. If you were going to humbly not take credit for that, would it be under the Stevenson family or would it be under the Neonatal Foundation or would it be under Rheindaler? What would your preference be?
You can follow up on that after if you'd like.
Because that's a Main Street-y thing and it didn't go unnoticed. Okay. Promotions. Sharon?
So I sent out my report yesterday. It's, really the first 2 pages are an outline of what, excuse me, what a strategic planning workshop session would look like. So what I'd like to do is propose that we plan for, after the budget discussion, that we plan for another workshop session or a retreat style afternoon or something where we sit down and do some strategic planning. And that would be, the goal of that is to come to what our mission, vision, values are, what our, as I like to say, what our box looks like, so we can start to think outside of it. And we're all working toward the same goal or goals as a group in our own ways and through our own work, but we at least all share the same vision and an ultimate short-term goal, long-term goal, things like that. And we've all contributed to what that looks like so that it becomes more about what the Main Street Board is looking to do for the future and what our ultimate goals are. So for people who maybe have not gone through something like this or were confused about what I kept saying about strategic planning, this is really what I'm talking about is outlined here. I'm proposing that we bring in an outside facilitator. This is not something that you want to do with with the group facilitating that conversation itself. You want a third-party person who is going to be able to guide the conversation. They're a neutral body They don't have a dog in the race, and they can go ahead and ask the questions that need to be asked and kind of bring out the answers that, that the group, would be helpful for the group to determine where we're going. And this really can be done in several ways. I actually brought, for anybody who wants to see it, this is an agenda for a strategic planning work session that I was involved in for the Carroll Arts Council when they redefined what their mission is. So it really goes through minute by minute what we're going to be doing in that particular session. Now, this one took 6 months and was done over, a monthly meeting over, about 6 to 8 months. So this was a different style. We could do that, and we can see how, how we want to create this and how we want to set this up. But I have this in case anybody wants to see that and kind of look at a breakdown of what a first session would look like. So I'm not looking to get, I would love to have something on the calendar right now and say, we're going to target X date to do this. Maybe the summer is a good time to do something like this. But I really think this is a critical piece of our work, and it needs to be done sooner than later so that we really know where we're going and what these budget items that we're looking to do, what their reasoning is and what our priorities are. So that's part one of my report. Part two, I just want to briefly say thank you all for the Memorial Day Parade. That was so much fun. I had a ball, even though it rained. Huh?
I broke my arm walking down to the parade because the sidewalk.
Oh, my gosh. So not fun for all of us. Good Lord, I'm so sorry.
I feel like there's more questions, but we'll ask them later.
So, I'm so sorry.
Okay, see, you're coming down. You have to fix the sidewalks. The big
Yes.
gaps.
All right, well, something to talk about, for sure.
We could put a window cling here that says "Made by Main Street" on it.
The PR person
Actually,
at
it's
Macy's.
right down by the,
Here's the
right
QR
past,
code.
the funeral home, so it's at Farm Main Street. It was right past the funeral home, right before your house with the recliner on the front porch. Right there, the sidewalk gap is.
I was just going to ask you that. This was actually a serious question. Was it a sidewalk thing where
Yes.
does the city know so that we can make sure that it doesn't happen again?
I mean, there's a lot of
Okay.
because I have to watch because of my bare foot.
Yeah.
I sheared it and the tip of my shoe and I just went flat and cut myself with my palms
Yeah.
and broke my arm up by my elbow.
So we had another one that was similar to that up by Jim, actually right across from our house in Lauren, because it was right there where they were selling the other house that's for sale now. But they went in and they like filled that concrete gap and feathered it down.
Like a bunch of them. We
Yeah,
were watching
exactly, but
as
that
we
may
were
be
walking.
another space where we need to look at it.
Where was this again?
Down by, right past the funeral home and right before the house that has a recliner on the front porch.
Okay.
In that area, there's a couple of big gaps, but the one real big one caught me.
So Sharon, I apologize, I don't want to hijack your report, but it brings up the question, Jay, did we get the TAG grant submitted? Because this is exactly the kind of thing that kind of strategic planning would support.
It was indeed submitted on the 17th.
Excellent, thank you.
And I applied for the entire $50,000 using the quote, so to speak, we got from Dirk and Edson.
And twofold, even if the city fixed this problem before that, could the grant then be retroactively used to reimburse the city or something like that? Because we're just,
Talking about, Brandy, the strategic planning?
Yeah, so the grant would not support an infrastructure change like that. The grant is to support the planning around a larger strategy for making sure that the streets are walkable, so it would basically, so like one of the things that it would do would be to go through and
So when we look at
note
your-
mark every place that would be a hazard for someone.
so when we look at your budget, we'll be able to see it and you could be like, is this what you were talking about? Where you would be like, hey, this is a really good tag grant opportunity for some of those different line items. Got it.
Right.
Sorry, Sharon.
No,
Memorial
that's
Day
okay.
Parade.
That's okay. Memorial- So I just wanted to give a shout out to Clean, Green, and Safe did the tags for the flowers. we targeted moms. And I gotta tell you, those women's faces lit up when we walked up to them and handed them a flower or handed one to their child and said, please give this to your mom. It was really, really special to see them, be noticed. So I'm hoping that the card on there had our logo, and on the flip side, it had the 3 upcoming events for June, the most recent one, the next recent ones. And, we'll see how effective that was.
Did we run out of flowers?
We ran out of flowers. We had 200 flowers.
Next time, I was watching from the car, and some people were getting 3 and 4 flowers. If people just have to watch that, somebody has a
Yes.
flower, don't give
Don't give them
another.
another flower.
Right.
Right. Yeah, well, we had, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that will spread them out first.
Yep,
That was my only
absolutely.
comment, but
We still would have run out because we bought 200 flowers, and really, really well done. I also want to thank the Arts and Entertainment Committee for volunteering to make tent cards that would have gone with any extra flowers to a local restaurant or two for bouquets. And it had our Facebook QR code on there to encourage people to like and follow us on Facebook.
These are the paper version, the sample.
So
But
thank you
I
for
have when we get to my report, Sharon, I have a use for those tents for an upcoming event that I want to bring up.
Excellent. Nothing should be unused. That was really well done. We also asked I asked the promotions committee asked for participants to share feedback and ideas. I really would like us to consider if the Main Street Board can in some way assist Parks and Rec in the form of soliciting volunteers for day of coordination for the parade, or help with parade planning, promotions, et cetera, as kind of members of a committee, if there's a parade committee or something like that. I think that's a really good way for the Main Street group to get involved in something that's bigger than ourselves, since it's
I would say it would be a subcommittee under promotions and event if you wanted to. There's nothing that prevents us from creating a subcommittee that would be a parade committee for a specific event.
or just offering to Parks and Rec, hey, we've got some, can we join, if you have a parade committee, can we join as a representative of Main Street and join an existing, not creating a new committee, but
Right, because businesses on Main Street are in the parade.
are in the parade, and it helps to promote everything in the town. So that was a thought that I had. We do need to address and fix promotion issues around Second Saturday and other Main Street Taneytown events. We've got to get things on Facebook. We have got to get events produced.
They are all there as of
Or-
8:30 this morning through Small Business Saturday in November.
Okay, does that
Sharon-
include the Clean, Green, and Safe Cleanup Day?
On June 1?
On June 1, and has that, I know that Main Street, that Main Street was invited to be a co-host of the Rhine Dollars event. That needs to be accepted, so that you can also then work on promoting that. It's just, this is kind of a social media across the board issue that I've seen. I looked for the Memorial Day Parade as an event to share, and there was no event created for that. I looked on the app, on the Taneytown Connect app. The link was broken on
Now,
the.
Memorial Day Parade, would that have been
Memorial Day
Park and
Parade.
Rec at the?
Well, that's what I'm saying, like even,
was
like this
just
is a
other
bigger,
across-
this is a
bigger
bigger
issue
social media
across, right.
issue, that events are not being created properly on social media, and so that they can be shared effectively and promoted effectively. Making a post about something is not an event. Making an event post is an event, and that's shared differently and works differently from just a regular old Facebook post that you may or may not see the one time that it appears.
What timeline do you see it being most effective? If it's
I
up there a
think
week ahead, a month
As
ahead?
soon
do
as you
think?
start to create an event, make an event post. I
Right, 'cause
have
then
event
people
posts
will-
for another body that are a full year out.
So like if there's an event and Sharon posts it and I show that I'm interested in it, then my friends see it and then maybe they're gonna be interested in it.
gives
So the
life.
sooner the better.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree.
And you can add things to it. The event doesn't have to be completely formed.
There's a section for
even.
discussion.
You can continue to modify and edit your event and update it. But these things just need to be really well thought out and planned. I also received some comments back from members of my promotions committee who have spoken to merchants about, Second Saturday planning. How are the themes of this event being carried out? I was thinking about, can a playbook be created so that for each event, there's a master plan, and we just plop in whatever those things are. I don't know, I'm just reporting back. This is not.
No, so that's actually in my, one of my thoughts on my report was, I was thinking, we're doing the sidewalk chalk Saturday, and then the second Saturday is just in, timing wise, the same.
Right.
And I know Mish has a lot of events, activities planned, and I was thinking, he and I talked at our last, it was gonna be our meeting, but we had,
Do you want to get to it then in your report?
it
Or
doesn't
do we-
matter, you
okay.
can, but.
I just don't want to,
No, it doesn't matter. But that is something that we talked about because I think that is a need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there's kind of a disconnect between what are the things that are happening. And then
of
just,
course, please do when you talk to merchants and let your committee know that when they talk to merchants, that merchants are always willing to talk to me. They know that I'm in their store, multiple times a month. They can bring it up to me then, they can call me, they can email me. I'm always happy to talk to our businesses.
I will reiterate that message, thank
Thank you.
you. And then my last comment is just about the app, and I mentioned this earlier, that, how can we engage, how can the Main Street Taneytown group engage with the city to ensure that downtown businesses are represented and correctly identified with information that is up to date? I did notice that there are some businesses missing from the app business list. The Rheindaler Carriage House is not listed as a business on that app. So there's some pretty obvious things that are not on there.
That's the Taneytown Connect app.
That's the Taneytown Connect app. So, if we're compiling lists of businesses through a body, through one of the committees on this group, can we also share that information and cross-purpose it so that other bodies are able to use it and confirm that things are up to date across the board? It could even be very helpful with the Chamber of Commerce, for example. So if that information can be used in multiple ways, that could be very helpful in multiple layers.
Don't forget to, Sharon, that Jim has the hand of Thor over the electronic board, the electronic message board down by Memorial Park.
Okay.
So if you've got events that you think that are coming up for Main Street that you think would be fitting there, that's absolutely Jim, what kind of timeline do you need if we need to post something down on that board? Like a week ahead, a day ahead? How intensive is that?
It's pretty easy to update the board remotely, so we just would need to coordinate that, so whatever.
Yeah, I'd like to see
guess
us start using that a little bit.
And it's gonna depend upon what other activities might be ongoing, how frequently or how long we would display a message, but it's not a big deal to update that and get something in the rotation down there.
So for me, that's part of that playbook. It's part of that checklist of this gets done, this, social media gets done. We send whoever needs to get that message that we need to put this on the message board.
Each event, you've
So
got
there
a
should
little
be a
list of what you
checklist,
want
and
done.
I refer
Jim, is
to a
that-
type of a
I'm listening to you
checklist.
and I'm thinking that's an excellent idea. But I'm wondering if that's something your committee could put together a social media checklist?
That's kind of what I was
Promotions
thinking
checklist?
Presentation committee, because that's all mine.
Yeah.
But that's the framework of how all this works.
Okay, great.
And that's my next thing, I got the financial stuff I'm looking for, so that's my report, is I'm gonna start working on social media, so that we get access to it. There's other things in the county we're not posting to,
Yep.
that I found. Go downtown Carroll County, there's nothing from Taneytown ever on that page, why? They're my questions, and the other things that we're gonna address next.
Right, because then that way we won't
Look
miss.
outside.
And I'd like to see it too, instead, like you said, instead of every committee creating their own checklist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead and create a master checklist and say, hey, for promotions, make sure these, we have this information. That way you're always getting the information you need. And then the committee's job is to get the information to you, that they know that you need.
So my question back is then, if without, whose job is it to actually physically do that post? Because I don't have access to the Facebook page, and I do not really want to have access to an 8th Facebook page that I can administer. So this is to me, it's part of guiding the work so that it gets done.
So if the post is, if you have the checklist and each committee, are the committees,
It
it's
comes down
interesting.
to whose job is it to actually
because
post
we're kind of in the
this
middle,
stuff?
yeah, because I would tell you, the committees will say, hey, here's the information that we need to get out. Then it goes to Sharon, and Sharon says, okay, this committee has given me all this information, and here's the whole checklist with A, B, C, D. These are all the things that need to get out, and here's the information. Can that then go over to Mish for now, just because nobody else has access to these things? Can that go to Mish from you as one single contact person?
Yeah, I mean, if that's how the group would like to do it, if,
And then, yeah, is anybody for now opposed to that until we hear more from the council and the council gives more access with the third-party social media accounts? This is where we're kind of stuck. Gotcha. But for now, if the committees have the information, that information is the information that goes out.
I am not opposed to that, but it has to get done.
Right.
So the reason that I ended up creating the Clean, Green, and Safe event from the Rhine Dollar was because after multiple requests, we did not see the second Saturday event get posted. And so I was not willing to let my event not have volunteers that it needs to make this successful because we weren't getting the event posted. So I'm fine with that as a process, but it has to get done.
yes.
Right, and that is in the plan I'm working on as to how, once it's submitted, and I get to be copied of all submissions so that I can follow up and make sure it's out there timely. I mean, if it, I mean.
Right, make sure it gets out when it's supposed to.
Advertising today for Saturday's event is worthless.
Yep.
Everybody in contact has their weekend plans already, and people that may have come aren't coming now.
Some of this, so if I'm not, am I hearing this right? That Beth, your committee is gonna make
The checklist.
the checklist?
And actually the process. We're
Yep,
not
okay.
gonna do the posting, but we're gonna come up with a process.
Okay.
So that way when like
And I'm
Arts and
happy to work
Entertainment's
with
coming
you.
up with
Look at
something,
this.
we think, okay, these are the things we need to be able to provide Sharon's committee with.
Yep.
To then be able to provide for Mish. So I think that sounds like a
So
great.
Beth will get, I'm just gonna recap it because that's a lot, guys. That's awesome. Beth's committee for organization is gonna come up with a checklist for everything. Each of your individual committees at that point will get the information together that's on Beth's checklist for how, the things that she says, hey, here's what promotions is gonna need from you.
Yep.
All that information from each of your committees then goes over to Sharon, who does the promotional gathering of all the information. And I'm not saying that ever, Sharon, if you wanted to, or you had an idea, because you're our dreamer, right? You've got it in your brain sometimes, and if you had an idea, and as long as you talk to Mish first, so you're not doubling down on the work, if you said, hey, this is really a vision that I have for it, and I think it'll look good, and the committees are on board, then you could create it. It won't prevent you from
Right,
creating something
right.
in the event you have time or you wanted to. Same thing, if you guys had something that you created ahead of time, there's nothing that stops you from doing that
I would
before you send it
rather,
to Sharon.
I would rather you all, if you have something specific, I would rather you create it because it's your vision and it's your thing, right? It's your event. So I
Right.
don't want to take that, you have the look, you've got the look and the feel and the graphics in mind for what you want to do. I just need Beth and I, we'll figure this out because it's kind of falling on in between our two committees. So what I'd like to be able to do is implement the process, make sure the process is working, not necessarily create the content, because I think the content needs to come from those who are doing the event
So we've
specifically.
talked about the social media, we've talked about the board that would be down at the game. Are we looking at also, like, things that are going out for press release also?
Anything
absolutely.
that's gotta be, that's a public document or a public announcement,
Because
anything
I
like
just
that.
want to like make sure we're hitting all
Right.
the different.
But, but it also
opportunities.
includes like teasers and, another, I posted that we were gonna be part of the Main Street, that Main Street, look for us representing Main Street from George's on York about the parade, like teasers. Just going out and taking a photo of a beautiful day and posting it on the Main Street page, just
sure.
activity. It's not just about the events, it's about consistently posting things to make sure that we're being visible. And that there are things, as we encourage people to like and follow us, that we've got things for them to like and follow as well on the page, and getting back that Instagram page and whatever that's gonna look like. And looking for other opportunities of where and how to promote things like other community pages, print, in conjunction with all of it. But that, to me, comes out of a marketing plan, which is one of the action items that will come out of a strategic planning session.
Yep, awesome.
So much more work to do around this entire topic.
All right, and then Sharon, that was your last.
Yes.
That was it for that one, right? All right, Beth, organization?
We kind of just do my thing.
Yeah, we touched on some of it, but
Okay.
what else do you?
I didn't have time with everything going on this weekend and yesterday with doctors to type everything out. But I have been working with Jay on the financials. He will, every month, will get a cover sheet for the last completed calendar month. It doesn't make sense to try and do partial months, because then you use all tracking ability. All we'll get is a single financial statement cover page. He will have all the backup where he can pull it if anybody needs it quickly. Like this one has $600 some. What do we spend it on? He can tell you. You'll see it by category. Jim has suggested we add categories for each committee. And in a column, starting next fiscal year, you'll have a total budget column next to it. So you can see kind of where you are on your budget. Say Stephanie has a $5,000 budget. In September, she spent $2,500 of it. She still has half of it to go. So everybody can see what their budget is, where they are, and move forward. But it doesn't make sense. And then it'll be fiscal year, because that's how everything for the city is done, right? And I think CDA is calendar. So Jay is going to reconcile his monthly reports to CDA's monthly reports. So if the calendar reporting to be done, we can use CDA's information. Fiscal reporting can be Taneytown, and it's all reconciled. We understand it all. And anything that's odd will be noted. Like I think was it. Yeah, one of the years, CDA had a funding screw up and gave Main Street Taneytown money that belonged to Ellsworth Cemetery. It wasn't noted, and I found it as I was digging, and that explained why in 1 year we had $52,000. Because it was put in and taken out, but not out of the income account. It was just taken out as an expense, and really it just got in and out of that funding error account. So that caused a lot of confusion with people asking lots of questions, because I've got questions from council members about that one. So, but that's what that is. So they're not perfect at CDA. This way, if we reconcile it, we could catch if they paid somebody else's bill out of our account.
As we
Which,
should be
unless you
doing.
reconcile, you may never know they paid Mount Airy's $100 bill.
Yeah, this was a long
Okay,
time
Mike.
coming.
So that's
This is good.
underway. That is probably 99% complete. So the next thing I'm going to do is the framework for our social media. We're not posting on downtown Carroll County at all. We need to figure out how to do that, because we could be partnering with other towns in Carroll County. They could be good in June 1st event if they knew about.
We have to be joining all these other pages
Yeah, I
and,
mean,
and actively
I'm
working.
gonna-
social
I-
And I'm
Got that one,
gonna,
I follow
right,
it.
and that goes back over to, that'll be a collaboration. You were just talking about it, how you two are pretty, this is gonna be pretty closely connected between your two committees for a little while. So on that checklist, just make sure it's on there that you're not just doing social media.
Right.
You know, bring me your social media stuff, but have on there, hey, Taneytown, Greater Carroll County, make sure and list out the pages specifically. That way we know we're never missing them. You know, because it's all about a tag, and if you miss one tag, you've missed it.
Yeah, and
So just being way specific about it when we're looking
And
at
then
this.
I'm still working on Instagram. If we don't get access to when it's set up, we'll make our own. Like Instagram is a different population that uses that as a Facebook.
Yeah.
And then we can look for volunteers that are tech savvy, whether it's high school students, to help us create events, help us create the posts, not post them. But if we can get them to help it and somebody has to review it and just publish it, it would be so much easier. But that's a volunteer thing, and we might be able to find tech savvy kids that are interested in that. Community college,
And
marketing
high schoolers,
students.
they still get service hours for that. 'Cause
there's
we're a nonprofit.
workforce development has people that are being paid to work for nonprofits and organizations and companies that will do these things. There are people out there that are available for, to help with this work. There's also local companies that do this work that would probably be very happy to bid on something if we wanted to do an RFP for support.
Can you guys explore that a little bit and then bring it, that's a really good topic for our strategic workshop, where we look at it and say, hey, here's some options, here's what we think it would cost, because that goes back to budget ultimately. But you're right, if it's something that we could, our ducks need to be in a row before we take stuff like this to somebody, so that's where we're getting to. All right, Beth, I didn't wanna, what else, do you have anything?
Yeah, I can make it right now.
Okay. That's it. That's more than, had a long time. I like it. All right, Keith, economic vitality.
I'm still catching up. I don't have anything for today.
Okay. And then Clean Green Safe, Stephanie.
All right, so we are all very excited for Saturday. We worked with a local business to get T-shirts printed with the Keep Taneytown Beautiful logo on it. So all of our committee members will be wearing those, so it's very obvious who our team leads are, because we'll have each one of our committee members, someone will be in charge of composting, someone will be in charge of recycling and trash pickup, someone will be in charge of planting, so that as volunteers come up, folks will know who to go to. I thank Jim for getting the parking lot here next to City Hall sectioned off for us, because we'll have a tent there with a table. One of our committee members will be stationed there to check people in, so that we, for Keep America Beautiful, can keep track of how many volunteers we had. Everything that is picked up will be taken to the City Hall parking lot. And that serves two purposes. One being that it makes it very easy for DPW to come get it all in one place. And secondly, we will be able to then, we can take photos, we can send, amounts of, numbers of bags of trash that are picked up. All of that can be reported to Keep America Beautiful. Because, one of the things that I'm working on right now is really rebuilding a relationship with them, because there are grant opportunities there. And they're excited to be in conversation with us. So really good news there. Last month, in the process of planning for this event, we supplied everyone with flyers, a press release, graphics, a run of show. So all of that it was kind of provided by Keep America Beautiful to make this very easy for communities to do this kind of work. But I think some of those could also be like the checklist, and the run of show could be a nice template for any event that we want to host. In terms of recruitment, I've already kind of talked about the Facebook event. I also contacted all of the local schools, messaged their administrators, their guidance counselors to let them know about the event, because it is a great opportunity for service learning hours for the students. I would love to request that it go on the board coming into town, particularly on the day of, because if, knock on wood, all goes as hoped, we have a lot of volunteers out there, that's going to be a lot of people in the street. So it'll be good for folks driving into town to know that there is a cleanup happening and slow down. Slow down and be mindful of the pedestrians who are out there cleaning. So would love to invite, all businesses. We understand that business, you can't leave your business to come to the cleanup, but if you have a spare moment, come out front, do a little beautification yourself. And kind of join in the fun. And then at noon, everyone will go to the $9 Carriage House. We are sponsoring that event. Again, just with lack of budget clarity, we weren't going to, let that kind of impact our event. So that's why the $9 Carriage House is sponsoring that. So we'll have food, we will have ice cream, we'll have, drinks and air conditioning and bathrooms. So we invite folks who come to volunteer to join us afterwards for that. In other big news, we have our first safety walk scheduled. So we've been working with the Taneytown Police Department. That will take place on June 19th. Schools and school offices are closed on that day for Juneteenth, and we're actually hoping that creates a really great opportunity for families to come out, because we're going to meet at the crosswalk at Baumgardner. That was TPD's idea, because they want to combine the first safety walk with a crosswalk education program, because that's where a lot of the kids cross for school. So we'll all meet there. They'll do, some crosswalk safety education. We'll have a giveaway. I know we had last time talked about flashlights, but given that it's going to be at 3 p.m., we thought a more appropriate incentive would be they're flashers that kids can put on their backpacks. They're used often in trail races and things like that. People put them on the back of their bicycles to make them visible. So we'll have those with the Taneytown Police Department logo on them.
Was that the change you had emailed about?
Yes.
Okay.
And then after that, we will take a safety walk, kind of down Baumgardner and through that area.
That's amazing. I wanted to bring up one thing, because there was an email that was not back and forth with discussion, but it looks like, was somebody asking if businesses wanted flowers?
There absolutely was not.
Okay, I'm just trying to catch
So
up on the back end.
yeah, let me
so-
provide some clarity here.
Okay.
So there is another nonprofit in town, Envision Taneytown, and there is overlap between our goals. And I absolutely support the work that they're doing. And again, in an effort to move to bring Taneytown forward and to create, community and, to provide things to businesses, they, Envision Taneytown undertook an effort where they said, we will provide the planters to you. We will care for the planters. There is a suggested donation of $50 if you want to participate in this program. So I know I received an email as well, so I just want to make it very clear that I don't think there is anything wrong with a nonprofit going to a business and saying, hey, do you want to participate with me? And I don't think that it's the case, because this was insinuated in the email, I don't think it's the case that local businesses don't want to participate with nonprofits.
Was it happening, so Envision Taneytown was the nonprofit piece of this, which is fine. Were they asking businesses on Main Street if they wanted to participate?
They spoke to one business.
Just one? Okay,
One.
but their intention is planters on Main Street.
If a business wants a planter in front of their business, yes.
Okay, all right, so that would be down Main Street. So I would tell you, because of the Main Street connection there, that Envision Taneytown would come to our Main Street committee.
I don't see why.
Why, like, so as
Well, there's a
this-
couple of things there. There are solicitation rules, there are solicitation codes in Taneytown. So we need to be mindful of solicitation codes.
So there's
Even
a-
though it's a nonprofit, those things still exist.
So is there a city code that says that a nonprofit needs a peddler's license to ask a business for a donation? Because that's what was
Yes.
said in the email to me.
So every time the History Museum comes to my door with something about the golf outing, they need a peddler's license, which is the same thing.
Yep.
So
So when
different
I went
is-
to Beth for the Stevenson Family Neonatal Foundation and said, hey, would you like to participate in this event? I had to have a peddler's license.
No, if you are going business to business, or if you are targeting, well, hang on, Mark, hang on.
This is,
I can tell you that I am very sure of the peddlers codes in town, because we get, for whatever reason, at our business, peddlers come in frequently. So I can tell you, some are in town, some are out of town, and one of the only exemptions is a religious organization.
So actually what I'm hearing here is that Taneytown is not welcoming to nonprofits.
That is not what anybody said. We actually said Envision Taneytown very much is, but my position on this board, what I'm actually saying is that if Taneytown Main Street is getting ready to hang flowers outside of primarily most of their businesses, there's another nonprofit in town that is not on Main Street that is now offering for a donation fee that they
No,
put
not a
flowers.
donation. Okay, so donation fee is a contradiction.
Are they going to place the flowers there regardless
Madam-
of the donation?
Madam Chairwoman, you asked if the solicitation for donations was a committee thing, and it was answered no. Right? You asked, was soliciting for money for flowers a clean, green, and safe initiative? And Stephanie said it was not. So if you have questions about peddlers' licenses, if anybody does, I would refer them either to city staff, or if somebody wants a reform of that, that's something to take up with the elected officials. But I don't know that it's something that the Main Street Board is going to come to some
Right,
sort
so
of.
then our board, so I
So
guess at this point
I would
can
call that
discuss it
asked and
another
answered.
time. Right. At this time, we will move forward discussion on our board and nonprofits and individuals on Main
just-
Street and how those things can work together.
So I
that
think
we avoid-
that's the thing that I think we
so that we
need
avoid
further
overlap.
discussion, is that I do not think that a nonprofit speaking to a business on Main Street has to go through us. So,
If they are speaking to, right, we're moving on from that, but yes, one business, no. Multiple businesses, yes.
That's their
We-
prerogative.
Again, guys, we will look at peddlers at another meeting if we need to, but Envision Taneytown is not our board purview.
right.
No.
So
Therefore, they
that's
do not have to
between-
report to us,
That is
so.
between Envision Taneytown. Our concern was that this was somebody from Main Street doing it, and it sounds like it was not.
It absolutely was not.
Okay.
And this is.
Nope, that's
And
fine.
and let me also reiterate this,
discussion that
it does not
is-
matter that the head of Envision Taneytown sits on my committee.
That-
He is allowed to be an autonomous nonprofit,
Yes,
separate
he
from
is.
Absolutely.
Main
So,
Street.
moving on, do we have anything else from Clean Green?
That is all.
All right, Lauren, arts and entertainment.
So, first, let me apologize because I didn't correct the date at the top, and, well, I did, but it's in pen. It's not, so that will go out. The information that has changed on this front page is the dates that we have our meetings. You're gonna see start with June 11th is our next meeting. And I wanna take you past all of our key strategies and outcomes to the updates, because that's the part of the report I need to share with you today. First thing I want to share is that we've lost a committee member. Amy Goodell over at Deja Vu Jewelry has found that she has a lot more responsibilities with her daughter in terms of events and things right now, and is not able to meet with us as a committee member, but is still willing to provide support and ideas to work with us. Tanya Bozdek from Adams County National Bank has agreed to join us, and so she'll be at our next meeting. She is the vice president, Brandy, am I right? One of the vice presidents, is that correct?
I have to look, I have to ask her, yeah. Tanya is over at ACMB, so
Yep.
I know her because we've done a lot of business with her, but I don't know her official title, we'll have to ask her.
Okay, so anyway, so she's gonna be joining us, she's very excited. And certainly, we're looking for any other people who feel like they would like to participate from the arts' perspective to build our Taneytown Main Street. We are going to be having the author Jean Burgess, who was the originator of the thought of having the author stroll, come and talk to us, or talk with us at our next meeting. So we can kind of look and see what kinds of next steps we want to make with that. And Cherry Creek of Carroll County Woodworking is preparing a quote for the Little Free Art Galleries. Our May meeting was not held because we didn't have a quorum. We had everybody planning to come, and then last minute, well, I knew Aaron wasn't going to come, and Joe told me that day he wasn't going to be able to make it, and Amy was unable to attend. So Misha and I looked over the agenda that had been prepared, but we didn't hold a formal meeting. One of the things I wanted to touch base with, because we've been doing, is the Sidewalk Chalk Saturday. We're really pleased to see families coming out to create art and explore the Main Street community. But one of the things we were talking about is looking at, for number one, more volunteers who will collaborate and coordinate, and ways to collaborate and coordinate with the businesses, as we said. I know that the Sidewalk Chalk Saturday is kind of a small piece of the second Saturday, but that's one of the pieces of feedback that we've heard in terms of we have the themes identified and the activities that Misha has put together, but how can we coordinate with businesses so that they feel they have some input with it and.
I see nobody from.
Right. So that's why I want to make sure that you guys have that opportunity. And hopefully that'll be something Misha's is looking towards, because we're just doing the sidewalk chalk, and you guys have been great about keeping the chalk in the shop. But I know from talking to you and talking to Paul in particular, that you guys want to build onto that theme to build things.
Regular, they have people come decorate, and then you decorate the sidewalk before stores open, and then that brings families, like if you get to the library and had kids draw a picture and audition basically to decorate the sidewalk, and they did it prior to stores opening, that brings their families out to see their artwork, that brings friends in to see that child's artwork, that brings people in. As a mother of three, I wouldn't put my kids in the car and give them to town to go on the sidewalk. I would give them a truck and send them in the driveway and say, have at it. You know, people are busy and they don't just bring their kids to town to go on the sidewalk. They have to have something to come for. And right now, the kids you see are probably the ones that live down the street walking up and going. I don't see any outside families coming in to go on the sidewalk. I think it needs to be rethought a little bit and maybe it's not free for all, have it organized where you have a group of 10-year-olds, one month, who audition, and then somebody does the sidewalk art from my store, somebody does it, from a certain house. But that brings people to town to look at kids' artwork, not some kid drawing scribbles on my sidewalk. I mean, I can get my nieces and nephews to come do that, but nobody wants to come. It's not as it's organized, it's a free-for-all. But we're not seeing anybody coming to the free-for-all.
Okay, we had,
That make sense?
well, it does, and I think there's a couple things I'm thinking while I'm listening. Great ideas.
Okay.
What I'm also thinking is, our initial thought was to bring families downtown, not necessarily creating the events,
Okay,
but to bring art infused into the town. So I don't have a problem with the kids that are downtown.
But families don't
I know,
come to go.
I know. But my thought too is that, actually, a couple thoughts. One of the things I wanted to mention, I did actually see families coming downtown that first week. We had several families coming
Okay, well,
down.
it didn't come up by me.
Yeah, okay,
They hung
okay.
out- it
We
may
have,
hung
okay,
out
so I'm
by-
gonna move us along a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But what I would like
yeah,
to do is chat with you, Bethany, because I know that you have some ideas. And I think that, that we need to consider them.
Anything else?
Oh, maybe, I'm sorry, got a little.
I know, you,
Yes, there is something more. What you got? I got two.
quick.
Actually, I wanted to make mention that I will not be here in June, so I will have a report prepared. And then I guess my thought is that either Brandy or Jay could share it, because we have a low number of members. We are not having, I don't have anybody, the ones that I have are working during the day, so they're not able to come in and share.
which is fine.
Yep. So, and the other thing is, just Sharon said something to me about the peep show on Monday, and so I just wanted to make sure that we know it's never too early to think about the peep show, because it is a competition. And Stephanie got to see real life how competitive it is. So if we want to be a competitor, we need to be a little more mindful starting soon. So,
And I will warn you all too, I have big aspirations for our Memorial Day float, like Rose Bowl parade
know.
aspirations.
I know.
So,
one more thing I wanted to
let's
mention.
start planning ahead now.
Love it.
I have these cards that were made up. This is a paper copy, but I have the cards already made and folded for the tents for the flowers. I know for Second Saturday, Mish was going to have flowers at each of the shops available to build a bouquet for families traveling around. My wonder is, do we want to get some extra ones to go into, as our original intent after the parade was to take the excess flowers, which we didn't have because everybody was so happy to have them, to get some extra ones that would go into the 2 Main Street restaurants, or 3, I guess, actually now, and have them with our little compliments of Main Street Taneytown. Check out our Facebook, like and follow, and keep up to date. So I just thought that that might be something we would want to
I think it's a great idea.
consider.
And I love the idea of connecting us to the community in that way. That's a direct, grassroots kind of connection that they see we are real.
Yep.
And we exist and we're working for you to build this, and we want to work with you to help
So
promote.
Sharon, remember when you talked about the ladybug?
Yes.
I think you might be talking about the flowers now.
Yeah, maybe that's our
I don't
thing.
know, just a thought.
And then that kind of rolls us right into, does anybody have any upcoming budget requests that we're looking at in the next 60 days that aren't touched in the new fiscal year budget yet, but events that we don't want to miss supporting prior to the new fiscal year calendar?
Do we have any kind of, I know there's the wine festival's coming up. in town, are there other opportunities that are happening in the community where we can be visible? We have a banner now, which I'm sorry, I forgot to bring with me.
Your pictures.
We'll
hand
come,
it
we'll come
off.
get it from you for.
Yes, but I do have we have a banner, it's got our web address on it. And, anything that we can have a table or have some kind of representation to show.
Sharon, I think we had talked about the, for the Artisan Fest that's held at the park.
Okay.
On the 20th, on Saturday, the 20th of July. I'm gonna be a vendor, but that might be a great spot for us to have a table.
Okay.
And then that one, again, going back to budget requests, just because they're things that we've been approving piecemeal between then, do you guys anticipate any costs that we need to look at prior to that so we don't hold you up?
I guess if there's a cost to get a table, if we can get
There is
volunteers.
not. So I actually had asked Lorena about this some time ago, and she said that she had shared with Jay that Main Street could have a table free of cost at any of the events.
Cool.
At any of the
Thank you.
the Parks and Rec planned events. Cool.
Okay. And then Stephanie, you're good on ones that Clean and Green is doing? Okay. All right, and then, so the only budget request that I think currently is sitting on the table in between are the flowers for the 2 restaurants. To use the cards, because Lauren has already created all these things in the event we had overage from the Memorial Day parade. So I would tell you, what do you think those flowers would be for those 2 restaurants?
I'm thinking Misha already has.
I will take care of it, yeah, with the second Saturday.
Include it
power.
with second Saturday things, okay?
Okay.
And nobody has a problem
Cards are
with,
already made, so.
with a modest amount of flowers going to the restaurants with our Main Street logo on them.
Yeah, it sounds like it's something
I'll
that's
talk to
already
the restaurants and make
involved
sure that
in-
they want flowers. I mean, I know Bess and Ben's does a pretty, I don't want to say aggressive job decorating, but they change their table numbers up seasonally based on what they are and so on and so forth. So I don't want to foist bouquets on them. You
Right.
know what I mean? I want to be respectful of what their plans are.
Ask and
rather than-
provide in the
rather
event they
than-
like
Anything
it.
that
Rather
we
than
do,
just say-
we're always going to ask. I think the assumption is
Yes.
we're always going to
Yeah.
ask if, not,
So
Man,
can I also
that,
ask that we prioritize spending the money with local businesses? So if there is a local florist, we should use the local florist. I understand the attraction of saving money by going somewhere else,
Well,
but
Catoctin is still local, so right now.
but
we're
it's not
utilizing it.
Taneytown, and we have someone in Taneytown who provides that same service. So I think if someone in town provides the service, and we have $9,000 in the bank account, like, we already kind of have a reputation as a bedroom community, and that all of our money leaves here. Like, let's not be guilty of that as a board. Like, if the service can be provided by a local business, we should get it
So
from a
we can
local
look too.
business.
I would
So-
definitely say email it over, because sometimes there are other extenuating factors.
Well, we have Tara Blooms, and we have,
Are they? Okay.
yeah.
I wasn't.
Tierra Bloom supplied the flowers for the parade.
Okay.
We purchased them, but that was where
and
we
then
went. to get-
Natasha's Farm does.
right.
yeah.
Right, there's a couple of them, but we could look at them and then give them to, Clean and Green or Arts and Entertainment, and then they come before the board budget. And if anybody has any conflicts or any suggestions about them, then we can look at them then. Because too, we can't discredit going just outside of Taneytown either, in the event that I think you're right. I think using in-town businesses is important. I think it's just as important to use the ones that are in the surrounding community, because those people are coming out to and they're supporting your businesses because they're in your surrounding
I think it's
community.
a concentric circle kind of
Yeah.
model where you look in
Yeah.
first and you get bids.
Exactly.
And I know we have used some of the other
Opportunity.
ones on your list there. I know that the town has used them before too for pretty large contracts. So they're not getting forgotten. It just may not be the year that they're getting used for that specific one, and every single year it's being spread out a little bit more than that.
That's fine. I asked
Yeah.
that we look
Yeah, no, I
inward
think
first,
that's
because, I mean, we're using a graphics company from California, so.
Got it. Okay, and then I want to request to you guys that I move my council meeting that we attend on behalf of the board to July instead of June. For 2 reasons. I want to have time for us to have our first strategic workshop. And if that's in June, then we can include that in our information to the council. And then 2, that gives us time as a board to talk about what we want our message to be going forward to. to the council and the things that you guys think are most important. You know, I'm pretty good at highlighting all the things that I think need to go forward. But if there's something really that, you know, I want to talk about, so I make sure I'm not missing something that you guys are like, hey, that was really important, and you just didn't bring it up. I want to make sure we don't have that. But is everybody okay if I move that to July?
I think if it fits with the bylaws.
Needed, yeah.
It is. So it's 4 times a year. I try to do it every 3 months, but 4 times a year is when I go.
Okay, so it's not specific to.
It is not.
A date?
Nope, that is, yeah, that's driven by when we feel that it's best suited. But yes, I preferably would do every 3 months and do it in June, but I think July in this situation, it's better fitting if it works for you guys. Good, no objections, okay. All right, and then our Main Street Managers Report, Treasurer. Are you doing that or is Beth?
I will.
It's kind of both.
The numbers are in front of you. As of March 31, which would be the end of, let me try this again. April 30th, our closing balance, 9114.49. And March 31, which is what ought to have been reported at the April meeting, was 9783.39. So from March 31 to April 30, there's a net change of $668.90. Moving forward, once Beth has helped me correct my formulas, you will get this on a cover sheet. Stephanie has asked what the money was spent for, so I will provide that for you as well.
Actually, when we send the cover sheet, I'll give the categories, and then,
That'd be great.
then you can ask specific, and he can put invoices and tell you who got paid what, but.
Okay, and then that'll be included in our approved minutes for this meeting. And then other business, we had talked about a special meeting with Main Street Maryland staff. Have we moved forward on that at all?
One of the 2 staff members at Maryland Main Street has resigned to accept a position elsewhere, and the remaining person is busy with TAG grants, so I do not yet have a time for that.
Okay, so we'll say postponed. And then, Jim, our request to the mayor and council to amend the code, having our committee meetings open to the public versus not open.
No update on that.
Is that scheduled for the June 10th meeting? Can that be addressed at that one?
They've asked for to get some legal input on that, so we'll.
And then is he
follow up
able,
with the
is he
city
able to
attorney.
provide that to them for that meeting? I know, and I ask because the board has asked for several months now. And I know that the attorney has been back for at least several months.
I will follow up with him.
Okay.
So,
Request, and then I don't want to be presumptuous, but are we in agreement as a board that that's something that we feel is still important for the attorney to be looking at sooner than later for our meetings?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. All right, public comments?
I have one question. In the minutes, it stated that the Taneytown record will be discussed at the May meeting.
Oh,
Oh,
thank
in
you. I'm
May.
so sorry.
Yep.
That should have been during my report.
In May, no, and I stuck it,
I apologize. The mayor asked me to ask you specifically if you have ideas about the content or the tempo of the Taneytown record. He has gone through and he has ideas and he's gotten feedback from the community on changes, but he wants to know specifically if the 6 of you have any thoughts on what should be in it. We do need to publish it and have it in mailboxes by July 1st because of obligations that we have about the water quality report. So there will indeed be one going out.
If you would, maybe again, send my, March report that outlined an entire proposal regarding the Taneytown record.
The magazine idea? No, the mayor, if I would send it to the mayor, do you mean?
Well, you asked for my thoughts on the Taneytown record.
No, the
Those
mayor
are still
specifically is
my
asking
thoughts
what
on
you
the
would like to see in a newspaper that comes out by July
I don't
1st.
care what kind of paper it's printed on, I don't care what format it's printed on. The Taneytown record needs to be for the people and about the people, not about the city of Taneytown, not about the city government. And that is the change that must be made. This must
the
be
mayor is
about.
asking for the content.
So-
and it
so
needs to
for-
go by July
Great.
what
And
meeting?
So for
should be
for
for
content,
about the people.
if the Main Street organization is paying for this paper. It should be about, at least in part, about what's happening on Main Street. Like Clean, Green, and Safe should be able to have a spread in there where we share the work of our volunteers, where we share upcoming events. Businesses should be able to advertise, because I understand the desire of this, of economic development to be able to provide everything that the businesses need, but what we don't have is any way to reach every single mailbox in Taneytown without the Taneytown record.
So I would say what I'm hearing is that we need from each committee letters and/or photos from each of you to go into this, because each of your committees is the creator of the content that you have, that you're putting forward. I know you guys have been really good about taking pictures at events, but these are the things that we want in it to start, because what we can't do is get so wrapped up in, hey, we might make a change to the record, that it prevents us from publishing the record in the interim.
Because I have no idea what the schedule is for publishing it, what the deadlines are for inserting information. There's no pay scale for advertising. There's no media support. There is absolutely no information available to the public about how to insert something into this publication.
I agree.
Because it is published by a city government. It is a city newsletter. It is not a newspaper. Calling it a newspaper is just
Mish, do you
wrong.
have the publishing schedule?
There's no media card, there's no
Hold on,
information,
hold on.
there's no nothing.
I'm sorry, the mayor just asked me to get your thoughts on on the tempo and content of the one that has to come out by July 1st.
So what are our obligations on when it needs to be published?
The city's water quality report needs to be in all of the residential mailboxes of Taneytown before July 1, or on July 1.
So when
So is that
does,
our obligation,
mail
or can
them.
the city mail that without it being in this newspaper that Main Street funds?
Is there theoretically the possibility? Yes, the mayor intends to put it in the newspaper and to use the newspaper for that.
So
But
as
if he could not, our board could in theory have more time to answer some of these questions and get something more cohesive together.
Sure, but I don't see,
So Main Street paying $2,000 roughly to get the city water report out.
And I feel like what we don't want to do is rush. We don't want to rush a paper that we're not comfortable with, or the content is haphazard, just to get a water report out.
So,
Actually, the 2,000 is per edition.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
We go back.
so I've asked for that information too, so I can get my proposal together for what money would be needed to reallocate to something that's worth publishing.
I feel like we need to know we need to have a conversation on a publishing schedule, and Sharon just touched on a couple of these, and I agree. We need to have a schedule, we need to know a cost of how much each one of those things are, since we're ultimately the overseers of the budget. We can look at having committee letters and pictures and inserts and what kind of content we want in it, how much it costs to be in color versus in black and white. We can collaborate with Parks and Rec if they have a list of upcoming events that they have, and ours can be incorporated into it. In the interim, I would tell you, in the event we can't get this out as quickly as we would want to, we should be looking into the Catoctin Banner and the Emmitsburg News. Those are two
I've had
papers that.
conversations with them already.
Yep, and I think that is also an acceptable solution, where we've got some content that should already be going over to them with some of the events that we've just done with both of your committees. Some of that stuff can still be
I
going
will
out
share
until we
this
get
with the
this
mayor
together.
as your feedback on content and tempo.
And can I just say, part of why we need to do the strategic planning session is to figure out what we want and where we're headed.
Yep.
And what pieces are available to us to help us move forward. Things like a publication, whatever it's called. Things like how we engage on social media. This all needs to be done before we can answer the mayor's very important question. Because without going through this process, I may have a tempo and theming and vision in mind that is very different from the other representatives on this board. So we cannot speak with one voice until we go through a process that defines what that voice is.
So we have, so we
Right now,
shall
we
be able
don't
to
know.
go to the mayor and he'll be able to let him know that we don't feel ready. Do we,
You know, I think,
collectively, I want to hear that from all of you guys. Do we feel that we're ready to publish a Taneytown record on by July 1st? Yes or no?
I'm not,
I don't want to
you
believe
know
into
what,
that, but
here's my,
that's our decision. We're either committing that we can do that or we're committing that we feel that we're not ready.
When is the publication, and when we ask publication deadline, that's not when does it have to be mailed out? When does the content have to go to the printer?
correct. What's the drop dead deadline for insertions?
June 14th?
That is 2 weeks from now. And we have not contacted a single business about advertisement. Yeah, so I would say no.
So are there things that are already in place from a templated standpoint that are always going into the publication?
The calendar
Okay,
and the water report will go in, if you consider that to be templated, because it will always go into this one.
okay.
We include a guide, I guess, to community nonprofits, contact, phone numbers, and information for City Hall, the mayor's message, and a table of contents to the paper.
Has a deadline been given to city employees who need to insert things into this publication? And what is that deadline?
June 14th.
Okay, so that's the overall deadline. What are the consequences if this does not get published through the Taneytown Record?
If this isn't in mailboxes, I don't know. That's a Public Works question, I think.
Not if it's not in mailboxes, just if it's not in the paper.
If it's
to
not
get
in the
to
Taneytown
mailboxes.
Record, what are the consequences? What are the other options to the city for
I don't
getting
know.
this information out?
The
We
mayor
were
has
just-
asked me to
I'd
find
go one
out.
step further and I would say, what is the connection to this board in the event that
I
it
mean,
can't
we
get
we
out
do
in
have
that
this,
one?
we do have the city manager in the room.
Yeah, so,
We would just mail out the water quality report on our own, just as a separate.
And Main
standalone
Street would not
mailing.
be asked to pay for that.
It wouldn't, it would just be coming from the city. It wouldn't be part of the Taneytown record. If there was no Taneytown record, we would just go back to sending the water quality report out
okay.
as
So
a
there's
standalone
so
item.
there is a viable solution on the table
Absolutely.
that does not include this body. Excellent.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is we feel that with 2 weeks' notice, we are not moving forward yet on a publication by July 1st. And that the city would need to find an alternative way to send out the water quality reports outside of this specific newspaper. Okay. All right, public comments?
Just a couple. Jay,
You need to come up to the
You come up.
microphone so the videos can get you.
I don't need to be told. On the hanging baskets, what are the logistics?
I'm sorry, you need to be speaking in the microphone so
my
that the
God.
video can get you.
Mark Stevenson, 9 York Street, on the hanging baskets, what are the logistics of where they're gonna be? How far down and side
There are
streets?
43 lampposts that have hooks on them.
Okay. Are they
So
on just on Baltimore Street or York and Frederick?
York and Frederick as well.
Okay. I'm asking because my guys are already taking care of the flowers that are at the square.
Who are your guys? I'm sorry.
My guy, my
Employee.
Oh, I see.
I don't mind donating that payroll for him to take care of some of these baskets, but if we can get some volunteers to help fill in those gaps, until then, Justin can do it. All right, so we'll get a little sprayer. He can get a little backpack sprayer or something. He'll be all right.
Did you tell him that?
He loves doing that stuff. He's even wearing a new uniform. Also, we will talk to the police department concerning all of the events that you guys are gonna have, like downtown, specifically on those days. We'll ask him to maybe have a car mid-block or something so that we can keep the flow of the traffic a little bit slower, particularly when you got a lot of kids around. Last thing, good decision on the paper, okay? The mayor doesn't have a right to dictate that you guys put out the water information, okay? This whole thing about this paper hasn't been printed in 2 years, but now you guys got 2 weeks to get the information in. Hold on to this paper. It's not a government publication. okay? It is for the citizens of Taneytown, and it's Main Street's responsibility, all right? The problem that this city has and continues to have with this control factor out of this building is what has created this desert out here. The isolationism is self-inflicted. Main Street, with your programming, you guys can bring this town out of it. So you guys do you and do the city. Don't let the city council tell you what to do. They can't even manage themselves, okay? You guys are the closest thing that the people have to any success for this change. And that's my public comment.
All right, upcoming meetings, the next one is June 26th, July 31st, August 28th, September 25th. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Who's the second?
You pick.
Sharon? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So adjourned.